I'm Andy Brady. I'm the young adult pastor here. My role is primarily to work with our college students and our single young adults. That's the main scope of my focus. Just to fill you in, because young adult ministry is something that Sunday mornings don't typically reflect the impact that a church's ministry has in young adult ministry. On average, what your midweek thing is in college ministry, about a third of that will attend on Sunday. That's just the nature of college ministry. They go home, they go visit friends elsewhere, they work jobs. Sometimes they go to Bedside Baptist and listen to Pastor Sheets. Like, all of those things happen, right? Like, that's just kind of how it works. So whenever I get a chance to speak to a new group in our church, I like to explain to them or tell them some of the things God's doing. For example, in our college ministry this year, we have 4 students that have surrendered their summer to God and said, I'll go wherever you want and I'll do whatever you want. Which means we also have 4 sets of parents that are learning to do this with their babies and trust God. And it's just as much a faith step for students as it is for their parents. So if you're familiar with the BGCT, Baptist General Convention of Texas, which we give money to, they have a collegiate mission arm called Go Now Missions. Jenny Ginn went with them. Faith Coleman went with them. I went with them. I don't think it's many moons ago. It turns out 2006 was a long time ago. I don't know. I feel like it was yesterday. I feel like I'm still young. That's a lie. I know that it's a very valid and a very reliable and trustworthy organization. So we have 4 students that went, they interviewed, they applied, and they're now going to, one of our young men, Chris, is going to spend 7 weeks in New York City this summer witnessing to students on college campuses. And then he will come back and he will do the same as our campus missionary at Weatherford College, which he's been doing for this semester. Another one, James, will spend, I believe, 8 weeks at Mission Arlington, living there, helping staff it, receiving the teams that come in, really working. He's been working at Chick-fil-A for like 3 years. So somebody who's got a brain already wired for logistics with a smile and the phrase, my pleasure, it's like God's sovereignty has been moving pieces for this moment for him. Sarah Tanner, one of our interns up here, one of our leaders, she will be going to Eastern Europe for 10 weeks. And it's incredible what God has been doing in that process with her and her family. Jessica Mccloskey, one of our students, and some of these you may not know, this is what's been a really cool thing for us. About half our college ministry are students that are from the HSM. And about half of our students are people that we met on campus that didn't have a church home, that moved in from out of town, that their parents moved here their senior year of high school, and they didn't connect to anything. And that's how much new people, how much of our group is people not from this church is a barometer that we really do use. Like, not that I have an aim number of total students, but what's our percent makeup? Are we reshuffling the deck that's already at Northside and playing Jenga? That's not growth. That's not growth, that dies out over time. Are we adding in new pieces? That's a barometer that we use. Jessica Mccloskey will be spending about 2 weeks originally in Tokyo. That's where she was originally set to go. With their current COVID situation, they just like 2 weeks ago said, hey, no more visitors can come in. So Go Now is sending her to, poor girl, France, Italy, and Monaco. I've already signed up. Keith Warren and I are huge Formula One fans. Formula One hits those circuits when she will be there. We have already asked. I'm looking at Go Now. I'm like, I just sent you 4 missionaries. Can a brother get a trip? I just want to go check out Monaco on the dime of the BGCT. Now, here's what I think is really, really cool. This process started in February for 2 of them and in March for 2 of them. And in the span of the last 2 months, we learned collectively they needed to raise $8,800. And collectively, as of Tuesday morning, in less than 2 months, they have raised $5,890. This is not, I have a rich uncle, I'm going to give him a phone call, he's going to cut a check. 2 of them today are doing yard work to help make another $100 to $300. Depending on rain, we'll have a car wash Sunday afternoon to help make another couple $100. They have written letters, they have made phone calls, they have helped build a deck in our backyard. So it's like, all right, fine, I'll give. They have been through additional weekly meetings and discipleship to get prepared. They have done a ton of work, and God has been very gracious in that from our college ministry in our church on a junior college. This shouldn't happen at a junior college. We would send 4 students. As far as I'm aware of, our church has never sent one of its college students through Go Now. And this year we get to send 4. And that's really, really cool. And Jenny Ginn, if those of you that know her, played a huge, huge role in it. That's a super long intro. I apologize for that. I am Andy, not to be confused with the high school minister Andrew. I went to Tarleton. He went to Tarleton. I got a degree in kinesiology. He got a degree in kinesiology. My wife is named Jordan. His wife is named Jordan, but it is a different wife. That's important. I have 1 son and 2 daughters. He has 1 son and 2 daughters. My last truck was a 4-door white lifted F-150. His current truck is a 4-door white lifted F-150. It's not confusing at all. I totally wasn't sent his retirement statement for tax purposes by Guidestone. That didn't happen his first week on the job. It absolutely happened. It's funny the way God works, right? It's pretty neat and interesting. All we've really done is increase the chances that Van gets either of our names semi-close to accurate. Okay, that's the only real benefit in this. But it's true, I know. All right, let's go to Ephesians chapter 6. I'm super pumped to be here with you. The women of Northside have been very generous and very gracious to our family. Whether I know you or not, just in general, the reputation of the women of Northside and the Brady house, not because we go here, is an overall very, very positive one. We don't live with next to our family. Right, our closest family members an hour and a half away. Most of them are 2 hours away. I call this the happy sweet spot. It's far enough that you can stay out of my business, but it's close enough that when my dad had a knee replacement this last week, I could drive down, visit, come back. I have a funeral tomorrow, drive down, come back. It's close enough for emergencies. But it's funny, and one of the things that we stress to our college students is when I am like this with God. Because our God's got a very nasty, nasty habit of saying, hey, Andy, what's in your hand? Can I have that? Can I have that? Luke 9:23, Jesus says, if anyone would follow me, not, hey, to hit that second tier of discipleship with me. Not, hey, to be on the varsity, not the JV with me. No, if you want to follow me. He's got this nasty habit of saying, what's in your hand? Can I have it? Can I have it? And so the living this distance from our family, there have been times that, man, we just have real prayers. Like, turns out that dirty, sick little kid in my baby girl's preschool doesn't care that I'm out of sick days and gives my daughter the flu anyways, right? That happened whenever I was a teacher. They didn't care about my schedule. But it's been women and families of Northside that God has used to help answer our prayers to meet our needs. And I'm not dogging on the guys either, but that's just how it's fleshed out in our life. The same with our students, man. One thing that we try to impress upon them is many of the students on that campus have been praying to a God they do or do not know exist. And many of their parents have been praying to a God they do or do not know exist. And we get a chance to be the hands and feet that God uses to tell them, I love you, you can trust me. And so when we're like this, when we're faithful, when we wake up every morning and it's, God, what are my marching orders? I get a chance to be used by God to help answer someone else's prayer. It's incredible. There's no reason that he should do this with me. You've talked about the book of Ephesians up to 6, right? This is typical Paul, right? The front half of the chapter, he's saying what we believe and why. The back half, Paul puts shoes on it and says, this is what it looks like in your life. Not I do to manufacture, not I do to earn favor, not I do to prove something. It's this has been done, and out of a heart of gratitude, out of a heart of worship, I'm now going to have my life reflect my status. It's something we stress with our students. On June 12th, 2010, I got my anniversary wrong by 6 months. On June 12th, 2010, Jordan and I got married. That day, a man named Nick Cooper says, I now pronounce you man and wife. My status with Jordan at that moment is that I am 100% husband. Now, 12 years later, next month, 2 months, 12 years later, I am just as much her husband as I was then. Right? Fair? But on June 12, 2010, I have no clue how to be a husband. I know how to be a great boyfriend. I know how to be a great fiance. I knew how to be a great bachelor. I knew how to live with 4 other guys in a 3-bedroom house because I'd been doing that, and it smelled awful and was a lot of fun. But my status was married. And over the course of the last 12 years, my life has better reflected my status. Fair? It's the same thing that happens in our Christian walk. The moment that we are saved, my status before God is 100% righteous in Christ. Your 5 solas from Ephesians chapter 2. By grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, according to the scriptures alone, to the glory of God alone. It's Ephesians 2, 1 through 9. I am 100% righteous before God. What Paul's explaining in chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Ephesians is, hey, with that reality, it's already earned for you. You can't earn it. Here's what it looks like for your life to reflect your status. And so when I read Ephesians 4, verses 24 and following, when I read Ephesians 5, when I read Ephesians 6, it's not, woe to me, I'm a terrible man, I'm worthless, God's never going to love me. No. God, look how big this gap between your expectation and my performance is, and yet you still love me. Wow, your love is big. Help me get one step closer. Equip me to move 1 degree closer so that my life reflects my status. It's incredible, and some days it feels incredibly difficult and incredibly hard, and I know that. Look at Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10. I'm going to try to move as fast as I can. Here's the problem, and I'm just kind of apologizing from the beginning. Since 2007, the states of Texas and Oklahoma conditioned me like Pavlov's dog to teach in 50-minute increments. And I've got a hard out at 11. So we're gonna take the last 15 years of my adult life and truncate that down, which means I'm probably going to speak a little faster than normal, and we're going to hit the highlights. Keep in mind this. Everything Paul's doing in Ephesians 4, 5, and 6 is echoing truths from Ephesians 1 and truths from Ephesians 2. If you're in Mark and Teresa Julian's class on Wednesday nights, Mark will reference literally every Wednesday night. 11 times in chapter 1, Paul writes in Christ or in him, referring to Christ. I've already told you there's the 5 solas of Ephesians chapter 2. Paul's statements are echoing the truths that he's already established. It's a very logical argument that he makes here, the way that he makes his argument. Ephesians 6, verse 10 kicks off with this. Oh, this is a favorite verse. This is a very favorite verse. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. The Holman Standard, which was really popular about 15 years ago, will say, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his vast might. My whole life was built around the wonderful sport of football. When I got into high school, we also added a great sport called powerlifting to it. And then I ended up getting into coaching powerlifting, and that was a big part of my world for a very, very long time. Like a large percent of my life was on numbers as it relates to strength. I knew the exact number that my athletes could lift one time. I knew the exact number. And I knew how to get it higher. Like that was what we did. I was literally paid to do this. So whenever I think about the strength of God, well, I know this sounds Sunday school, but there's no limit to his strength. When I walk under the bar as a high school student, I know exactly what the most I can lift is. I'm just trying to duplicate that. I know there's an amount that I can't do it anymore. I know how many times I can do that. With God, there's no limit to not only how strong he is, but his endurance for the long haul. I can be a great dad on Monday. And sometimes I can even be a great dad on Tuesday as well. But so help me, you will find me on Wednesday as the guy up here with screaming kids who don't listen. That's just my world. Like, I don't have the endurance to make it the week. I don't have the endurance to make it to lunch sometimes. And Paul says, I know. At the tail end of 5, where we learn about being spouses, in the beginning of 6, where we're reminded how to be parents, and in the middle of 6, where we're told how to be employees even when you have an unrighteous boss, or how to be employers even when you have a wicked employee. Paul says, I know that you can't do this. That's the point of the gospel. The gospel is I can't. Christ did. Accept what Christ has done. Every day when I wake up, I get a chance to walk outside my tent and find daily bread standing right there, provided by a Savior who knew that I could not manufacture it myself. And every effort that I make to manufacture it, which for me looks like grabbing it myself. For me, it looks like control. For me, it looks like over-planning. For me, it looks like stressing what you do and how you do it. That's what it looks like for me. Probably not for y'all. I'm more wicked. But every day I walk out, there's bread right there that he has provided. Turns out it's just enough to get to bedtime. It's just enough to get to bedtime each day. And I can either take it and operate in his strength, or I can be me and say, no, I'm good. I mean, like, how long did you let it cool? I'm told it's supposed to cool for 2 hours so it can finish rising, Jesus? No, just take the bread. Easy example, and I'm not minimizing it, right? Like, there's no argument. The Russian military might is far superior to the Ukrainian military might. That's not debatable. And since 2012, we as a country have been sending them arms, and we have been sending them intelligence, and we have been sending them training for 10 years so that were a day like this last winter to occur, they would have a better chance to endure. How foolish would we think they were to know that they were in no way capable of rising to the task, to look at our provision and leave it unopened for the last decade? If for the last 2 months we sent $800 billion worth of military aid, they let it sit in a warehouse. Wouldn't that be foolish? Zelensky, you can't stare down the Russian army on your own, or else you would have still had Crimea. Why won't you use our stuff? It's a humble heart that recognizes the reality of who Christ is and who I am not, that will say, no, that's your strength, and I need it. I would be just as foolish not to take it. Here's how it plays out. There are things that we know God calls us into. There are things that we know God has placed limits on. I can't walk into a room full of strangers and work the room. That's not how I'm wired. I don't know what work the room is. I can build your room. I can wire up your room. I could even run plumbing to the bathroom off the side of it. I can hang your lights. I don't like to, but I can paint your room. I don't know what work the room looks like. But I know that where God is leading me involves things like working a room. So what does it mean for me to be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might? That when I walk in, I'm surrendering what I want to do. And I'm trusting God that as I step forward in this, he's going to provide the daily bread needed. He's going to provide it. He's going to be there. I don't always want to remain calm with my kids when on the 17th consecutive day, they have continued to do that one thing that doesn't honor us, that is absolutely dangerous. But I can't fly off the handle at him. So I'm going to take his strength, not mine. I'm going to take a time out. And then we're going to go through it. A quick story on this one. I worked for, and this couples up with verses 5 through 9. One of the school districts that I work for, you end the school year as a teacher. Your last day, you walk into your principal's office, and it's a simple conversation. Hey, are you coming back? Hey, are you looking for employment? And my answer was simple. Look, I'm teaching 7th grade math. That was neat. Hate 7th grade math. I'm going to be looking for a job teaching 8th grade math again. I miss 8th grade math. We have an 8th grade math opening. I love these students. I would love to loop up with them. If you can't make that happen, that's fine. I still want to go teach 8th grade math, so I'll go apply somewhere. Not personal. Me and my principal had a great relationship. Okay, I'll give you that job. Okay, if I have 8th grade math, I won't apply anywhere. You've got my services for the next year. Okay? Andy, if anything changes, Andy, not Andrew, Jordan, not the other Jordan. Andy, if anything changes, we will let you know before July 9th. July 9th is a magic day in the teaching world because on that day, my contract becomes guaranteed. I got to resign before that if I want to keep teaching. and go somewhere else. Like if I resign on July 10th, my license is suspended. That's how this school district responded to that. If I resign before that, I'm free to go. So July 10th-ish gets here, and a man that's discipling me sends me a podcast on Ephesians 6, 5 through 9, and how I work for God, not for man, and whether I have a righteous boss or a wicked boss, my degree of work ethic and the way that I treat the workplace should not change because I work for a higher master. I get that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is nice. Preach. Cool. I go inside, check my email. This is the first business day after I can resign, and I have 7th grade math this year. So I text my principal, hey, y'all made a mistake online. I'm supposed to have 8th grade math. Oh yeah, about that. We learned over the weekend that the new superintendent is denying all intra-district transfer requests. So are y'all going to let me out? No. So then I go meet with the guy that disciples me because he's like, I want you to listen to this before we meet. And we walk in, he's like, hey, did you listen to the podcast? And I was like, oh yeah, I totally listened to the podcast. If you ever prophesy in my world again like that, I will cut your tires. I've worked in terrible schools and bad school districts and rough parts of town my whole career. I can have this done and it would never come back on me. That is a threat. Don't do this in my life again. And he just starts to ask the basic questions. Can you get out of it? I can. I won't be able to teach for a year. How long does your contract last? Till next May. This is July 10th. So, Andy, what you're saying is for the next 10 months, you are locked into a contract that you were deceived into signing. Yes. What you're saying is they did you wrong and they knew it. Yes. You were wronged. Yes, 100%. Andy, it sounds like God just gave you a 10-month test of character on whether or not you will trust him when what you don't want to happen will happen. His last name's Strapazon. We call him Strap. I'm Strap. I don't like that. That's the cards you've been dealt, bro. Will you do this? Will you do this? Every day for the next season began with Ephesians 6:10. Because every day I woke up and at my doorstep were two things. An enemy telling me I was right and they wronged me. An enemy telling me that I could not trust them. An enemy telling me that I deserve to be bitter. I deserve to poison the well. I deserve to be reluctant and drag my feet on everything outside of the classroom. Because this is a school district that had lots of expectations outside of 8:30 to 3:30. And because I had been wrong, I deserved to drag my feet on those things. That was outside the tent, as was a piece of bread every day. Just one piece. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. I can be bitter. I can be sassy. It doesn't look good on a grown man, but I can be sassy. I have a sharp wit. I can drag my feet. I can rally the troops to hate the superintendent. I can do those things. And I have the credentials as a teacher to get support behind me. I can do that. Or I can take daily bread. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Every day the test was, do I give in to what's screaming at my flesh, or do I take that bread, open my hand and say, God, how do I do this and glorify you? You're probably not in a contract dispute with a school district. You have kids, you have spouses, you have relationships, you have scenarios and jobs and other things. How do I do the righteous thing? How do I do the thing that God has revealed? Satan wants me to be distracted with what I can't face down right now, so that I'm not focused on what's in front of me. Yet John 14:21 would point to my focus and energy should be on what's in front of me now. And that as I get through now, Christ will reveal what's next when I get there. So how do I go through the now when me and my spouse are having a tough stretch right now? I don't want to be kind. I want to be mean. I don't want to forgive. I want to hold on. I like the power with this. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Because it wasn't you that saved you. It's not you that will sustain you. And it's not you that will grow you. It's the one that sees the deficiency between the expectation and where I am and says, I love you more than that deficiency. I love you so much, I'll bleed for that. I love you so much, I'll show up every day and I'll give you exactly what you need for it. And so every day that I take that bread, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might, every day that I do that, I'm redeclaring the gospel over and over again. And if you skip down, I'm 4 minutes over. Can you give me 2? Okay. So that season, we would read this verse a lot. That school year opened up with my wife's grandfather passing away the first week of school. The 2 weeks leading up to school, I'm not a burr in the saddle of my boss because someone wiser than me told me, right? And so they were very generous with my time off as a result of that. And then my son, in the month of September, of the 25 days that he was eligible to go to daycare, some sick, dirty little kid in my son's preschool class. I don't talk about regular kids that way. Just the evil ones that get my kids sick. Because my kids do not bring germs to your kids, all right? I don't know if you know that or not. My kids, they can't transmit disease. They're perfect. Oh, I've just set them up for a rough weekend when mama's out of town, so I'm going to feel the brunt of it. 25 days in the month of September, my son can go to daycare. My wife's a nurse. I'm a teacher at the time. Of those 25, he didn't go to school for 20 of them because he was sick and had a fever. And it's like, oh, we just flushed more than our mortgage down the drain for a daycare that we didn't attend. Crud, how are we going to do this? Every day, Ephesians 6:10. Every day, Ephesians 6:10. Every day, Ephesians 6:10. And yet, because I am a Texan of all Texans, my family came with Stephen F. Austin, legitimately. We have been here since we could be here, and it is awful. I have this tendency, right, this rugged individualism, which is a campaign slogan from the 19th century, so I don't know that I want to build my life around that, but that I want to pull myself up by my bootstraps, which is contrary to a gospel that says you can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and take it on myself. Show my dad, who loves me, that he raised a great man. Watch how much of this I'm bearing for my family. Impress my wife. Look how much we don't have need. Right? This is what we do. Verse 16. I know I'm skipping over most of the armor of God, but that's where we're at today. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. Paul's referencing the Roman soldier, right? So it's almost like a cylinder has been cut down the pipe. And this is your Roman shield. Now, these shields are made of wood. How does a wooden shield extinguish flaming arrows, right? Think Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1990s, Kevin Costner, that big scary scene. I don't know why at 7 years old I was allowed to watch this movie. I wasn't even allowed to watch The Simpsons, but I get to see Kevin Costner be Robin Hood in the early 90s in the mall in Abilene, Texas. Remember, they got the flaming arrows that they would shoot, and as a wee lad, man, I am terrified. I'm like, oh, that will kill you and burn you. Okay, this is what Paul's referencing, though. I've got a wooden shield. How am I going to defend against a flaming arrow? Even if it stops the arrow, fire doesn't stop. Romans would take leather straps, soak them in water, and surround the wooden shield with that so that it would literally extinguish or smolder a flaming arrow. Now, as a great Texan, it's like, yes, I will take my shield and hide right behind it like this. No, that's not the design of the shield. The design of the shield is that it protects my left half and the right half of the person next to me. It is required for me to call for help when I am under attack for me to survive. The design is that the collection of our shields protects the collective group. An individual on their own will be taken out, which is what Satan wants to do. And everything in our local culture, not American, not the West, not anything, our current Parker County culture, not taking a shot, making an observation, everything is that I do this on my own. Number one thing confronting me and my family is not any of the stuff that I see on the news. It's that I don't know anyone. It's that there's not a transparency in my life. It's that my kids are not observing from me how to cultivate deep, hard relationships with those that God has placed around me, like a general would place other soldiers around me, so that when I am taking fire, I look at my buddy and say, I'm taking fire. Well, won't they be able to see it? You would think, but we have been conditioned as grown adults in the area that we have grown up in to hide it. Well, I don't want to burden them. Right? We had a grandparent fall, turns out almost a month ago. Hard fall. Why didn't you tell anybody? I don't want to burden them. What? You had to go to the hospital. My brother-in-law's dad had a heart attack last week. Mom doesn't call. Why? I didn't want to wake you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's not just that generation. It's our culture. I'm having a difficult run with my kid. Why would I reach out to someone? I don't want to burden them. The design is that God gets to use the family that he has placed around us to answer the prayers that we offer up to him and express his continued love and compassion for you. Saying, I know you're taking fire, Ma. Here's who I've given. All you got to do is tell them and they're bringing their shield. All you got to do is tell them. All you got to do is tell the small group. But what if they abuse that knowledge? What if they betray me? I mean, the cold answer is Jesus got betrayed too. I think it's going to happen. The other side of the coin is I can't help what they do with it. I just help if I trust God and go forward in his strength. It's the design. And either I trust the designer or I don't. I'm not minimizing how difficult it is. I can tell you this, a year ago was a very low point for us in ministry. I'm at a lot of lows at this time. There are many, many things, not just one or two or three elements. And there are three men up here, Jason Medlin, Brad Martin, and Sam Nobles, that we would meet together pretty regularly. The temptation as a minister is to hide everything. Because if nobody knows nothing, there is no cause to fire me. And I don't know if you've tried to buy a new house in the last few years, or the last year, but I'm not looking to move anytime soon, okay? That's the temptation, but that's the truth. And when the truth and I disagree, truth has to win. So we would get together, and we would share the honest, difficult things. They didn't solve my problems. They didn't have a magic wand that they could wave because all their kids are older and they've walked through all this, or because they're all older and they could tell me how to navigate it. I'm just wanting to emphasize that Brad and Sam and Medland are all at least 1 decade older than I am, okay? Brad may dress a decade younger than me, but I am the spry young one with energy. And my jokes are funnier than Sam, and you better tell him that. But they would pray for me, like legitimately pray for me. They would ask me about things. They would say, hey, how's it going? Hey, I remember you saying that y'all struggled with this with John. Here's what I noticed when you weren't around the other day. It was more daily bread. It's hard. As a minister, if I'm opening this up, man, I'm vulnerable. As a human, if I'm opening this up, I'm vulnerable. What if they misuse that info? We're just going to have to trust it. So that my kids can learn what opening up looks like. So that they don't become great at deceiving. So that they don't become great at being duplicitous. And so that they can know that vulnerability is where we receive the strength of Christ. Tracking with me? It's the number one thing I think we're tempted with. Number one. All right, I'm going to pray this out. I appreciate your patience on me going 10 minutes over. Thank you very much. God, I thank you for your daily bread. I thank you for your regular strength. I thank you that your strength is greater than we could ever need. And that no matter how many days I have declined it, you continue to offer it daily. Lord, I pray for these women and their families, that you would continue to show them where you are giving provision, that you would help them to see where you have provided people with shields to help extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. I pray that you would guide their marriages and the raising of their children, that you would help them in their work and in their endeavors, Lord, where they could see the opportunities to take what you have placed in their life and leverage it for the advancement of the gospel. It's in your name, amen.